Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, we're going to begin by wishing a refuah shlema to President Biden and to all of our friends and relatives and to the increasing number of people anywhere who are suffering through COVID. The plague has not yet let go of us. The need for our personal vigilance remains very great. Okay, Balaam and his donkey have had their conversations. The earth has swallowed the dissident Korach up. The suspected adulteress has been forced to drink a noxious mixture. The potential Nazarites have learned what their obligations will be. Serpents have become healers. The Israelites are seduced through harlotry to experiment with the worship of other gods. Miriam and Aaron are accused of gossiping, but only Miriam is punished. 12 spies are sent to scout out, explore Canaan, and the results were disastrous. Moses hits a rock, more disaster. Miriam dies, disaster. Aaron dies, disaster. How hard is it, therefore, to understand why I absolutely love the fourth book of the Torah, Bamidbar, the book of Numbers? I love it. How sad it is that B'nai Mitzvah kids rarely get assigned to portions in this book, because it is always read during the summer months in the northern hemisphere. That's a serious loss. Some of us over the years have toyed with not reading most of the book of Leviticus so that the book of Numbers could get its place in the sun. Such outlandish heresy has never found much support. Okay, our Sedra is Pinchas, Numbers 25:10 and following. Suddenly we are in the 40th year of the desert wandering. Some 38 years of the journey are described in our text with just a few passing verses here and there. The end of the Exodus is tantalizingly within our reach. There are powerfully important narratives in our Sedra. The daughters of Tzalafchad fight for the right of women to inherit, and to the shock of many, they find the support of God for their plea. Moses begins the transfer of his authority to Joshua as the end of Moses' life draws near. And then there's Pinchas, the guy whose name is attached to our Sedra, a high-ranking Levite, nephew of the Kohen Gadol Aaron, a member of the ruling elite. Pinchas witnesses a brazen act. An Israelite man takes a Midianite woman into his tent in the full view of many. Pinchas is outraged. Carrying his spear, he bursts into the tent and with a single blow kills both. The world holds its collective breath. This was an act of non-judicial capital punishment. No courts, no witnesses called. Pinchas was judge, jury, and executioner. The reaction was like the sun bursting forth on a cloudy, stormy day. God stops the plague that the divine had sent against the people in response to what was a mass experience of adultery and idolatry incited by the Midianites. Who knows, maybe by Balaam himself. The dying ended sunlight. God's wrath was assuaged, and Pinchas was awarded an eternal pact of peace, Brit Shalom, a pact between God and all of Pinchas's descendants. Pinchas's family will inherit a Brit Kahuna Olam, a pact of priesthood for all time. And ever afterwards, we have debated the role of single-handed zealotry in our communities. A severe moral transgression has elicited an extreme violent response. And that response, how did this happen? Has earned God's eternal appreciation. This wasn't an incident on the battlefield. It was one man's response to a very difficult, very challenging, very threatening event. The Talmud has an explanation. The Midianite women offered their bodies to Israelite men, and the price? The Israelite men had only to worship Baal Peor. A seemingly small price to pay. And so they paid. No wonder Pinchas felt the need to make an immediate public response. And God agreed with him. Other rabbis taught that Moses and the elders were absolutely aghast at what Pinchas had done, but that God stopped them from punishing Pinchas. Others taught that the Brit Shalom was actually a mind-altering event through which God enabled Pinchas to be a little less hot-headed going forward. So I wonder, was this the earliest mention of Valium in Jewish literature? Who knows? Still, other rabbis said that the story of Pinchas was a powerful illustration of the importance of Taharat HaMishpacha, the purity of family life. To make it work, we see the true power, the methodology of divine punishment. God wounds us for our sins, and the very healing of those wounds opens the door to a healing of our souls. Nice approach. We should be grateful, therefore, for those wounds from God afflicting us for our sins. And Pinchas, he was the instrument of both punishment and reward. So he clearly deserved his extravagant rewards. A word about language. What's the basic difference between a hero and a terrorist? I want to say that the difference can be easily found in a study of motivations and outcomes. It is therefore muvan me'elav, it's self-evident. Who is the hero and who is the terrorist? We look, we know. But others would say that one group's terrorist is another group's hero. So there is no universal litmus test. The same act could therefore be seen either as horrific slaughter or incredible bravery. It all depends upon who is looking. Situational ethics is the application of moral laws according to circumstances. I don't like situational ethics. I want higher standards, universal standards. Situational ethics allows each of us to construct our own moral universe. So was Pinchas a true hero, discovering his own path to defend his actions? Or was he one whose actions threatened the ethical stability of an entire people? And who among us is qualified to make that determination? Such questions matter. They really matter. Situational ethics are defining the battleground today for reproductive rights. Is there an absolute here? Or will right or wrong be determined by who gets more voters to show up to the polls this November, and again to show up 2 years from now? The January 6th hearings don't mention situational ethics. But situational ethics is foundational to understanding why the prime actors did what they did and chose not to do what should have been done. Situational ethics. The application of moral law according to the circumstances. Or perhaps we would prefer the approach known as utilitarianism. That which brings the greatest good to the greatest number of people is therefore to be considered good. Or any other ethical system. The story of Pinchas throws open wide the window for us. But some of us will not be interested in peering through that window to see what's on the other side. Some of us will refuse to look through that window because we already possess absolute certainty about what is right and what is wrong. And some of us, sadly, maybe the majority, really don't have the energy or enough interest to even care. I reject Pinchas as a role model. But that's me. What about you? How do you feel? Hero? Terrorist? See you next week. Shabbat Shalom.